Welcome back to The Explainer. So glad to have you here today. All right, let's just dive right into this because today we are taking a geographical field trip right from our screens. I was thinking recently, have you ever actually stopped to consider how the raw dirt, the rocks, and the water right beneath your feet directly dictate human survival? How they shape our economies and literally mold our cultures? We kind of take the ground we walk on for granted, but as we're going to explore today, Earth's physical features, its landforms, are quite literally the canvas upon which the entire human story is painted.
To really grasp the emotional stakes of our journey today, we need to look back at how our ancestors felt about the ground beneath them. Listen to this line from the Atharva Veda, specifically from the Hymn to the Earth. It simply states, "The earth is my mother, and I am her child." It's profound, isn't it? Way before anyone was talking about modern ecological theories, ancient Indian texts were already establishing this incredibly deep spiritual connection between humanity and the natural environment. The terrain wasn't just a place to build a house, it was a life-giving force.
All right, here is our syllabus for today's explainer. We're starting with Earth's canvas, then climbing up to mountains, stepping down to plateaus, exploring the plains, venturing into deserts, and wrapping up with ancient landscapes.
Section 1. Mountains. Heights, hazards, and holiness. Let's get into it.
Okay, imagine we're looking at a chalkboard sketch, mapping out the world's greatest peaks. What is absolutely fascinating here is the sheer global variety of these massive landforms. At the very top, obviously, you've got Mount Everest in Asia, soaring to a staggering 8,848 meters. But look across the map. We have Aconcagua anchoring the Andes over in South America, Mont Blanc standing as the highest peak in the Alps of Western Europe, and Kilimanjaro rising totally isolated in Eastern Africa. It's not even part of a mountain range. And of course, we can't forget Enamudi, the highest mountain in South India. Each one of these massive peaks completely dictates the climate, the flora, and the fauna of their entire respective continent.
But what's truly amazing to me is how entirely different cultures view the exact same physical rock and ice. Take Mount Everest. To the Tibetans, it is Chomolungma, which beautifully translates to the mother goddess of the world. But to the Nepalese, it's Sagarmatha, or goddess of the sky. And this kind of reverence is definitely not an isolated phenomenon. Think about Mount Kailash in Tibet. It is held profoundly sacred by followers of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and the ancient Tibetan religion of Bon. Across the globe, it seems human beings share this built-in instinct to look up at these massive summits and feel an overwhelming sense of spiritual reverence.
We see this reverence captured so perfectly in ancient Indian texts, too. The great poet Kalidasa, who lived over 1,500 years ago, wrote a beautiful invocation to the Himalayas. He doesn't describe the mountain as just a big pile of rocks. No, he calls it the Lord of Mountains, like a living god. He writes about how the wind comes sweeping down from it, carrying the spray of the river Ganga, cooling the mountain people. It really shows this deep, ancient understanding of how towering snow-capped peaks act as these giant water towers, feeding the vital rivers that sustain all human life down below.
Fast forward to today, though, and our relationship with mountains has gotten a lot more complicated. On one hand, we have immense economic opportunity. The crisp air and the unbelievable views attract millions of people for skiing, hiking, mountaineering, and those ancient pilgrimages we just mentioned. And honestly, this provides absolutely crucial income for mountain communities. But, and this is a big but, this huge influx of humans, combined with drastically shifting climate patterns, puts a massive strain on a really delicate ecosystem. Finding a balance between booming economic development and the ecological protection of these fragile environments is easily one of our greatest modern geographical challenges.
And let's be real, the mountain environment pushes back. The terrain is incredibly rugged, and it brings severe environmental hazards. We're talking sudden avalanches, massive landslides, and devastating flash floods caused by violent cloudbursts. Yet human resilience in the face of all this is just astounding. Think about Machendri Paul, who became the first Indian woman to summit Everest back in 1984. Or consider the literal awe-inspiring story of Arunima Sinha. She tragically lost her leg in an accident, but still went on to conquer Everest in 2013 with a prosthetic limb. Actually, she eventually climbed the highest peak of every single continent. It perfectly highlights how living in and exploring extreme geography breeds extraordinary human perseverance.
Moving right along to Section 2, Plateaus, the ancient storehouses. Now, to really understand plateaus, I find it helps to compare them to mountains. Think back to the Himalayas we were just talking about. Geographically speaking, they are young, meaning they have tall, sharp peaks and are literally still growing taller every year due to tectonic plates crashing together. Now contrast that dynamic energy with the Deccan Plateau in central and South India.
This landform is incredibly old. It's elevated, but it features a much flatter surface because it was formed millions of years ago by massive ancient volcanic activity. And that specific volcanic history is exactly why many plateaus, unlike sharp mountains, boast this incredibly rich, fertile black soil.
And plateaus can be absolutely gigantic. The Tibetan Plateau is so immense it's literally nicknamed the roof of the world. We're talking about an average altitude of 4,500 meters. To put that sheer international scale into perspective for a second, it stretches nearly 2,500 kilometers across. If you're in India, that's roughly the entire distance from Chandigarh all the way down to Kanyakumari. An unbroken expanse of high, flat land that huge, it fundamentally alters global weather patterns.
So why do we call them storehouses? Well, because plateau geography directly fuels our modern global economy. They are essentially geographic vaults packed with mineral wealth. The East African Plateau, for instance, is globally famous for massive gold and diamond mining operations. In India, the Chota Nagpur Plateau holds huge vital reserves of iron, coal, and manganese. Plus, because plateaus naturally drop off very sharply at their edges, they create some of the most breathtaking natural wonders on Earth. Just look at the Nohi Kalakai Falls in Meghalaya, plunging a dizzying 340 meters right off the edge of the Cherrapunji Plateau. It's unreal.
Down to Section 3. Plains, from satellites to soil.
Okay, let's do a quick visual exercise together. Put your geography professor hats on for a second. Imagine you're analyzing high-altitude satellite imagery of North India. You'd see these jagged white expanses at the very top, giving way to an incredibly vast, vibrant green expanse down below. What exactly are we looking at there? Well, the white is the snow-capped Himalayan mountains. But that sprawling green area, that's the Ganga Plain. The rivers flowing down from those white peaks carry tiny particles of rock, sand, and silt, sediments, and they deposit them over millennia. The result? Some of the most hyper-fertile soil on planet Earth.
Thanks to that incredibly rich soil, plains, which generally sit at less than 300 meters above sea level, are absolutely packed with people. The Ganga Plain alone supports roughly 40 crore people. That's a staggering number. But how we survive in these regions is rapidly changing. Historically, agricultural practices here were traditional and rain-fed. Farmers relied entirely on the seasonal monsoons. Today, though, to feed our massive populations, we've had to adapt. We've shifted to modern irrigation, utilizing vast canal networks and heavily pumping groundwater. While this definitely spikes crop production in the short term, it severely threatens to deplete the very groundwater those 40 crore people desperately rely on for survival.
And you literally can't talk about plains without talking about the rivers that build them. A confluence is the exact meeting point of two or more rivers. In the flat expanse of the plains, rivers are calm and easy to navigate, which has historically supported massive economic trade and transportation. But beyond just the economics, confluences carry immense cultural and spiritual weight. Across so many diverse global traditions, the specific spot where rivers merge is considered profoundly sacred. These are the sites of countless festivals, rituals, and pilgrimages. In these landscapes, water isn't just a utility, it's the foundation of community.
All right, Section 4 already. Deserts, surviving the extremes.
When I say the word desert, you probably instantly think of intense, blistering heat, right? And sure, there are vast, hot deserts, like the Sahara in Africa or the Thar Desert in the Indian subcontinent. But there are also cold deserts, like the expansive Gobi Desert in Asia, or believe it or not, the entire continent of Antarctica. What actually defines a desert isn't the temperature, it's a drastic lack of precipitation, almost no water. Yet, even in these extreme, water-starved environments, human adaptability totally shines. Communities living in or migrating through places like the Thar Desert have developed incredibly rich survival traits. They've passed down vibrant folk songs, legends, and deep cultural traditions that are specifically tied to surviving and thriving amidst those shifting sands.
And finally, Section 5, Ancient Landscapes and Human Emotion.
I want you to notice the sheer, brilliant organization of early geographical thought here. This is the ancient Tamil Sangam classification of 5 landscapes, known as the Tinais. Look at how perfectly they paired physical terrain with human occupation. You have Karinji, the mountainous regions, logically tied to hunting and gathering. Malai, the grasslands and forests, tied to cattle rearing. Marudam, the fertile plains, directly linked to farming. Nadal, the coasts, meant for fishing. And Palay, the arid deserts, naturally associated with difficult journeying.
But here is where it gets really amazing. The Tamil Sangam literature didn't just stop at occupations. They took it a step further.
They actually associated each specific geographical landscape with specific human moods and emotions, like love, longing, or the pain of separation. This brilliantly illustrates that thousands of years ago, there was already this keen awareness of regional diversity, long before modern ecological theories came around to tell us that geography dictates our lives. Ancient thinkers completely understood that the environment shapes not just what we do for a living, but how we feel and who we are as people.
Which brings us to the end of our geographical journey today. But before you go, I want to leave you all with a little take-home assignment. Sometime today, just look outside your window. Think about the physical landform that your city or town is built on. I want you to ask yourself, how has the specific terrain, the soil, and the water of your own region historically shaped its culture, its economy, and ultimately your own daily life? Take a moment to really appreciate Earth's canvas beneath your feet. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.